All right. So
Oh,
I'm just, yeah.
yeah, I would just introduce it how you would.
Did I introduce it last time? I totally don't remember. I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I would just say, hey, everyone. I do that.
Surrogacy is here with our monthly surrogate webinar with Dr. Sadaf with Embra Health. This is emotionally preparing for surrogacy.
Thank you. Yeah. And so today we're going to be sort of exploring the entire journey from front to end and beyond. And the hope of this conversation is just to bring some insight and awareness to, yes, you're, getting ready to be pregnant in this very intentional way. You're getting ready for these doctor's appointments. You're getting the logistics handled, but emotionally and kind of how you're hoping to feel and managing your health emotionally throughout this experience should be on the task list as well. So this type of conversation will hopefully prioritize that for you if you're a first-time carrier, even if you're not a first-time carrier, right? Having a very intentional experience going to a second or third journey and just knowing how to prepare. So that's kind of what we'll do. I'm Dr. Sadaf, I'm from Embra Health. And the topics that we'll focus on just more specifically will be understanding surrogacy kind of from a meta perspective. The IP and GC relationship, we're going to spend time talking about that unique relationship, staying grounded during pregnancy, communications and boundaries, navigating loss and uncertainty, preparing for birth, and honoring your experience with life after surrogacy. So we'll kind of go through everything here. So surrogacy from a meta perspective is a very unique role. It's emotional, it's layered, I would say it's complex, and it's also like extremely magical. Surrogacy is one of those things that you'll do in life for most women that is selfless and it's powerful and it's also complex, but beautiful things are usually that, right? Usually amazing and hard. It
Yep.
asks you to share your body, emotions, time for a baby who isn't biologically yours while balancing your own babies, your own family, your work, your feelings, your life. It will include several big emotions in the experience, moments of feeling proud and very excited, moments of feeling doubt, grief, confusion. All of that is part of what you're signing up for. And again, all beautiful things include this variety of experience. So um, you're walking into this as a first time carrier, or even a second or third time, hopefully knowing this. And if not, by the end of today, you will have a better sense of it. So let's dive into this relationship dynamic, right? The intended parent and gestational carrier relationship. This is usually a very unique relationship. You've likely never had a relationship like this before. You've had coworkers, you have family, you have friends, you have other people, and relationships look different, but this is very unique. For a carrier, you're signing up to be part of a family, an extension of a family, right? And the extension that allows them to grow into their version, their preferred desired family. And so you're innately very special. And you're also entering this dynamic with either a single parent or a couple, where it's like, hey, I'm here now too. And I need to care about you and you need to care about me. And how do we do this together? Um, the match meeting is where a lot of information is shared. And so as a carrier, the encouragement is, you're going to make your profile and you're going to share information about yourself. And being very intentional about what you're sharing is important, right? Like a lot of the time, intended parents aren't looking for like the shiny, sparkly profiles. Those are the ones that um, maybe as a carrier you assume like, oh, this has to look like the perfect person to the reader. And
Yeah.
oftentimes the intended parents are like, that's kind of fishy actually. Like the perfect profile is almost like, I don't know. There's so much on the intended parent side. There's so much like anecdotal research that'll tell us um, intended parents appreciate authenticity, appreciate honesty, appreciate realness. Oftentimes, like an intended parent will be like, in your profile, if you're telling me that like you have a soccer family and your two kids are in soccer every weekend and you're not going to be around on the weekends and we're going to just, you know, need to talk to you at certain times, like that tends to be more appreciated because it's like, okay, there's a structure that we can respect instead of this sort of unknown or this sort of like I could be available all the time thing. So all that to say, your profile is sort of obviously where it starts, and you want to be very intentional and authentic in that. When you get to a match meeting as a carrier, you want to prioritize what you need to know in that conversation. And obviously, with your coordinators, surrogacy, as you're led really well in that conversation, right? There are important topics that are going to be brought into the room that you all get to share and discuss on. But you as a carrier should also prioritize any of the questions that you have in your mind about them. And you should. It shouldn't be a situation where you're like, I'll take what I can get kind of thing, because you're still a very important person in this family's life, and you have very important people in your life. So this has to make sense for you as a carrier, and it is your priority. It should be your priority and responsibility to make sure that it does. So if you need to ask questions, if you need to understand them in a unique way, or there's something that's not on the question list that you're like really interested in on, like, hey, what are your feelings about, like, do you guys like art or whatever that is,
Yeah.
like, whatever can connect you to them that would make that more clear for you, that's encouraged. I mean,
Yeah, and I mean everything you just said is, I mean, it goes both ways,
yeah,
right? Like you as the surrogate are going to appreciate the honesty on an intended parent's profile just as much as they're going to appreciate yours. You're going to want to
yeah,
know about them and actually hear their authentic voice. And as far as the match meeting goes, I think it's a perk of working with an agency and
yeah,
having somebody there that kind of acts as the buffer, like that comes with a matching coordinator, and having um, someone there that, especially if you're a first time surrogate, because you don't always know what questions to ask or what information you need to be on the same page about. So I love, yeah, but being authentic and giving real answers is so important, just to make sure that the dynamic is there. It's almost like a first date.
right. Yeah,
Like
and
you need to make sure you guys are gonna mesh.
when those are those sort of unique fun facts, or those bits of information that maybe feel vulnerable to share, are the ones that tend to connect the quickest with someone else.
Yeah,
And so, like, if you're intentional about doing surrogacy and connecting with someone, being your honest self will likely connect you, you know, quicker, sooner to that right
yeah,
person, because you are, that little bit of vulnerability is, everyone's vulnerable in this situation. Everyone's already sort of scared and nervous. And so
yeah.
there's something that they could be like, oh, you don't like that. I don't like that either. That goes so far, right?
It does. It really does.
And it helps to ease some of this, like, tension, not tension, but it's just the animosity in the space. Still strangers. Everyone's still a stranger, right? So we're still trying to get to know each other and connect.
But
And
even if you find small things in common, whatever it may be, it could be over, love of coffee or
yeah,
something. But just in general, like if you have something in common, it's easier to feel a connection.
totally. The relationship foundation, this is also very helpful to be intentional about. As a carrier, whether it's your first time, your second time, or your third time, I would spend time thinking about what are you envisioning here? Like, what does this relationship look like to you in your best case scenario? And then also envision, like, what are other case scenarios that you would feel comfortable with, and find out what your threshold is. So if you're a carrier who's like, I want an extended family out of this situation. Like, I want to be connected. I want to be in this child's life. Like, this is how it would make most sense to me. That is valid and super important to have a clear understanding on and share with whoever you're hoping to match with, because you want to align on what this looks like on an overall life view.
Yeah.
If you're a carrier who's like, I have 4 kids, I'm pretty busy, this is a huge thing that I've wanted to do, and I want to help a family, but I can't guarantee where I'm going to be afterward, and where you're going to be, and that's okay with me. Like, that's also fine and valid. There's so many dynamics to the IP and GC relationship that are all valid. They can look very close, they can look not super close, they can look somewhere in between where we have some connection and we just kind of let it be, and let it ride how it does. So that's important, I think, as a carrier. You don't want to be in a position where you're sort of hoping for this type of relationship dynamic, and you don't get it, but the signs were there, right? So like
Yeah.
having the conversations in the beginning, being very clear in your profiles, making sure that conversation is happening at match, and then obviously putting in the work, right? Like if there's an intention to grow a long lasting connection, that's going to involve effort on both sides.
Yeah.
There is an intention to have an organic flow, and the organic flow is kind of leading into, thank you so much for doing this, and I'm super happy I helped your family, and I kind of have to go back into my life now. That's fine too. uh,
Yeah.
it it looks different, and I'm appreciative of this agency because I think you educate well on the differences of this dynamic. It's not always the rainbows and butterflies version, and that's fine because that's not the only version.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I did work in the intake department. And like I've shifted gears, but I do know I've often had this conversation with surrogates, and it kind of combines the relationship foundation and you're setting expectations bullets together. Is even I think it's really important to talk about, even if you have your hopes up or your expectations on one way or another, to like understand, there's a lot of unpredictability that just happens with pregnancy. And if something happens during the pregnancy, it can affect that relationship, right? And I think, especially first time surrogates, like, bless their hearts, but a lot of them, they come in and they have heart eyes and they just want to make someone's dreams come true. And not that that's not true for experienced surrogates, because
Right.
maybe you had a first journey that was, completely and totally, everything went perfectly, everything went smooth sailing, and then maybe you're headed into your next journey and there's no guarantee that's going to happen again.
Yeah.
um so making sure that you're aware, like, well, it's perfectly okay, like, definitely, talk to the matching team. You want them to know if you're expecting to have that kind of relationship, if you want that closeness, or maybe you don't, or but just keeping in mind, like, realistically, if something happens during this pregnancy, that everybody might not be best friends at the end. You know what I mean? Like, it just might be hard. It might be hurtful for whatever reason.
Yep.
Um, like, things change. Like, your future intended mother could have all the intentions in the world of being her best friend, and then all of a sudden you're pregnant, and then that's traumatic for her. You just don't know.
Yeah.
So making sure, like, it's okay to have those expectations, but also not setting them too high, I guess.
Yeah. Yep. And with the expectations, again, it's nice to be clear and specific, but expectations have to have a little bit of wiggle room anyway, because there's so much unknown in pregnancy, to your point, Kayla. Like you can have all the best intentions at the match meeting before a contract is signed, before anything is transferred. And then there's a big physical component that will do its thing regardless of what you want to control and what you don't. Pregnancy is very much, so much of this is controllable with IVF and we're doing the best we can. But afterwards, there's a point where it's like, nobody can predict or know what's happening next. And so expectations are beautiful foundations and should be left with wiggle room and the understanding that we are human beings. This is a very human experience. There's a physical component to this experience. And like any other relationship, the relationship can ebb and flow. And
Yeah.
and also um like other relationships, that it could be a relationship where this was just not a good fit. And yes, we have a responsibility together, but like I don't know if we could be in each other's lives after this.
Yeah.
Fine
It's
too.
like friends that end up traveling together and
Yeah.
then they find out they actually can't be around each other that much.
Yeah. And then you're like, wow, it was really great to have them there. Or maybe it wasn't that great and this chapter can close.
Yeah.
All of that applies in any other relationship, just the same it would here in this one.
Yeah.
Communication preferences, again, as a carrier specifically, like you want to be intentional about this as well. I think more often than not, a carrier will come into this thinking like, what do you need from me? Like, what can I do for you? Like, how often do you want to hear from me? Like, should I send you a text every day? Like, what do you need? But like that also is a thing that you'll want to consider. Like, well, what do you want to offer? Like, do you want to be texting every day? Does that feel good to you? What if you're an introverted person and you're like not a fan of sharing business usually and not a fan of disclosing like what could be personal information? And this could be very uncomfortable to be like, yeah, like my placenta looks like this, or like whatever it is, right? So that could be just a very different type of conversation you're now signing up for. Be very clear about that, right? Also, if you're a carrier who has just a busy life, like, hey, I want to commit to daily text, but I might not. Like, I have a full-time job and I have 3 young kids, and whatever the case is. And so
Yeah.
maybe if in that case, if you're like, can we schedule something? Can I just have something on the calendar so that I'm never going to miss you? You're never going to miss me. There's no pressure in between. Whatever the protocol, whatever the communication is. We talk a lot about this in the psych meetings and also the IP meetings, but like there's no wrong answer. You just want a clear one, right? And
Yeah.
you can also start with something of like, let's schedule a Saturday call. Like, let's just start with that, and like we'll text if we want to throughout the week, but also not feel the pressure, and let's see how that goes. That could be the start. And then you change it, you update it, you kind of do what you need to do. But communication is one where I wouldn't just be like, yeah, we'll figure it out kind of thing, because
Yeah.
oftentimes that's the bread, that's like the baseline of your entire journey together. And so that's the one that you don't really want to just wait and see. You want to plan for it.
Yeah. I'm a big encourager of letting it develop naturally
Yeah.
too. Like
Yep.
you can set your preferences
Yep.
and have a pretty clear idea, but also like you don't have to force it. Like just see
Yeah.
what happens, see how it naturally develops.
Yeah, especially in the beginning stages, right? Like you're
Yeah.
it's gonna feel awkward. So like if it's feeling more awkward to like plan a call and then meet very formally, then yeah, it's like let me send a meme, let me break the ice.
Yeah.
With communication, we're also talking about conflict. And this is usually like lowercase c conflict, not like the capital C. But as you get to know someone, you're going to start to get to know all of them, right? You're going to get to know the things that they prefer, the things that they like, and also things that might just not land well with them. And the encouragement is always going to be like, yeah, don't ignore those things. If you're a carrier and you're maybe it's a communication or maybe it's a behavior you're seeing from your intended parents, you're like, ooh, I don't love that. That doesn't feel good for me. Then that's something that will identify as like discord or possible conflict. And my favorite saying around this is like, you want to heal a scratch before it turns into a scar. And in surrogacy, I think that that's so important because there will be scratches. You're getting to know each other. There will be little things that will be like, oh, didn't love that. Oh, wish that sounds weird. Or this text is kind of funny, or whatever that is.
Yeah.
You want to be able to address those before that becomes a behavioral pattern in the 9, 10 months ahead of you. And now we're getting into a scar. Now we're getting into some resentment. Now we're getting into like some like serious dislike or disagreement. And so in early conversations, the best approach here to kind of start a conflict resolution plan is also to just think about like who you are with conflict and how you deal with conflict. Are you someone where like if you're bothered, they would know. You will be
Yeah.
clear. You need to get on the phone. You need to talk to them. You're not going to sleep at night unless it's discussed. Like, are you that person? Or are you to this other person that's like, I need some time now. Like, I feel a lot and I need to come back to this when I feel a little less.
Yeah.
And I can circle back in a couple hours or maybe give me the weekend. Or like, are you that person who needs time? And in this setting, you also have an agency coordinator who's with you alongside of you all. So it's like, well, would that be my go-to? Like if I'm feeling bothered, like she's going to hear it first and she's going to be the one that's going to help us figure it out. And that
Yeah.
feels good. So it's just sort of thinking about and sharing with each other. Like, what's your personality? What's your style? Are you the one that's like, we need to talk right now? Are you the one that's like, I need some time? Or are you thinking, yeah, let's just get Kayla in, or like, let's get her involved, or whoever your coordinator is.
Yeah.
Sometimes it'd be
Yeah.
good to plan at the start.
Yeah. I'm like I feel like just in my experience working in intake, there that's the stage where they're building that matching profile, right? And I feel like so many are like I'm not a conflict person. Like they avoid it like the plague. And lots of people do, right? Like
Yes.
it's completely, unfortunately, very common to just swallow down, your, however you're feeling about something, and just sit on it and let it, like, don't say anything, don't stir the pot, don't
Right.
whatever. But for something like this, like, you're in already a vulnerable situation.
Yeah.
So, adding, you don't want to add salt to that wound. I love the healing, the scratch versus the
Scratch.
scar. I love that.
Yeah.
um
And you're all like, to your point, like everyone's vulnerable here, right? Like everyone's
yeah,
nervous. Every single your coordinator's nervous too. Everyone's nervous. Everyone's um you new to each other. You're growing this like connection with each other. It's over a very important thing, a huge important thing. And so um you're already there. You're already there where you're exposed a little bit and everyone's vulnerable. So if there's like anything that feels like, oh, I don't want to like stir the pot, or like I don't want to make things uncomfortable, the space is already kind of, it's already kind of uncomfortable. So like bring it
yeah,
out. You're not going to
yeah,
add anything that's exponentially going to make things worse, right? Like if anything, these tend to be growth stages. These tend to be connections with each other where it's like, yeah, maybe I got the doctor's, maybe I got the appointment results I heard from the clinic, and I would have loved to heard that from you specifically, right? Like
yeah,
that might be something that bothers me. And that's the kind of stuff we're talking about when we're talking about like little discords. It's like
yeah,
little tiny preferences that are not going to just, the other person won't know until you share.
right,
But yeah, just kind of thinking about how you are with conflict. And if you don't love conflict, or you don't, or if you avoid it, like this is also the one relationship where you don't want to do that, because you as a carrier, especially, you will have this whole physical experience of pregnancy attached to this. You do not want to skip those scratches. You do not want to like pretend
yeah,
not there, because if that scratch turns into a scar, metaphorically, that will impact your emotional health. And you're already in an emotional state affected by a physical state. Like
yeah,
it's more at stake here if you're bothered. So like address what bothers you is the point.
yeah,
And you have an agency coordinator, you have a lot of people that'll help support you with that.
yeah.
Yeah.
Agreed. Yeah,
Okay. Stay connected yet grounded. So the thing with pregnancy, and I think oftentimes with carriers, especially first time carriers, it's like, I've had great pregnancies. This will be fine. And this is like, I'm not worried. And that is the positive attitude that you should absolutely come into. And also understand that this is a different pregnancy. And it's different in a lot of ways. Physically, it's different because this pregnancy, your body did not create this embryo and your body didn't implant it itself. So physically, your body's having a pregnancy very differently. And this could be symptomatically just obviously different.
yeah,
Emotionally, again, this is a whole different ballgame. This is a bond with a pregnancy and with a growing baby that you are choosing, and it's one of care, not claim. So care means there's an intentionality of like you are going to be protecting and nurturing someone that is not yours.
yeah,
So that is a mindset shift, a helpful one to have in the very beginning. But how you kind of bring this into your life in a very grounded way. For most carriers, it's including your own family in the process. If you're kind of doing this in an isolating way, where like not a lot of people know you're a surrogate, or not a lot of people are going to be there to help you or support you, that could be a very different experience than including your supports, including your circle, including your family in the process. If you have young children, it's understand, or any children actually, not just young children,
yeah,
helping your kids understand your helper role and like having them be part of this, which they are. Their life
yeah,
is signing up for this too. Your
yeah,
partner's life is signing up for this too. If you're not going to make it to the family holiday, your family's signing up for this too. So your world is signing up for this the same way that you are, and it is helpful for them and you to feel that. Finding healthy ways to connect with pregnancy. I mean, I think what I'm going to talk about in a bit is just this, like, I think a very like sometimes damaging misconception that you as a carrier should not be connecting. to this experience. Like, you should try to avoid connecting to this baby and try to avoid connecting to this pregnancy just to kind of protect you in a sense. And that may be the approach for some, but there are so many healthy and safe ways to still enjoy this experience and being pregnant. You'll want to do the things that you did in other pregnancies. Maybe you did like specific music or journaling, belly art, taking photos, like maternity type photos, whether it's with your intended parents or whether it's just personally for you. Like, whatever you will want to do to kind of celebrate this experience, you should be encouraged to do. Um, the last point here is leaning into the guardian bond. And this is sort of a term that we've created around how a carrier feels connected to a child that they're growing in their womb, a baby. The guardian bond is similar to these other types of relationships that most women have had, right? Most women have had an experience of caring for a young person, and that was not their child, right? A lot of women have been nannies. A lot of women have experienced babysitting or helping other kids, or a teacher, or cousins, and et cetera. It's this experience of, I can love and care for someone a lot, and like really, really want to be with them, and really want to invest in their well-being, and understand that there is no claim. They're not mine. They don't have to be mine for me to feel that with them.
Yeah.
So the guardian bond is exactly that, where the encouragement is, you are the guardian for this child for the next 9, 10-ish months. And you can and should be connecting with this baby, and
Yeah.
loving on this baby, and like using all that maternal juice on this baby, and caring for it. Caring, obviously that means caring for yourself, but like caring for this child, and invested in their well-being, and
Yeah.
realizing that this can all happen without claiming them. We've done this before in other settings. You've done this before in other settings. The claiming aspect, this is my biological child aspect, has nothing to do with loving a child. And so that's something that I think tends to be a nice reminder, and is encouraged, that as a carrier, you shouldn't feel like it's dangerous or unsafe to connect with this baby. You
Yeah.
can do that, and it can help you have a beautiful experience. It could also help your family connect to this experience. And, if anything, this child is just going to feel more and more love before they even get here. And
Yeah.
the bounty of love that they're getting from their intended parents.
I think as an experienced surrogate and working in an intake department or or outreach department, it's very, very common, I think, for it's just a very common question to be asked that's, or even just told, like, oh my God, I don't think I could ever do it. I couldn't give up the baby. You know what I mean? Like, that's a very common thing that gets told to you if you say you're going to be a surrogate, or you are carrying as a surrogate, or someone heard that you did it, or whatever the case may be, or even women that are researching surrogacy and looking into becoming a surrogate, and they're like, like, is it weird? Like, you're an experienced surrogate, please tell me, like, what does postpartum look like? How did you give up the baby? Is it sad? Is it weird? And I'm like, I always never have a better answer than, you just kind of know going in,
Yeah.
like, this baby's not genetically related to you. And depending on your relationship that you build with your intended parents, there's going to be, like, as you guys get to know each other, like, you're excited for them. You're excited for them to finally get their baby. Like, in the moment that they finally get to hold their baby is, like, essentially why all of us do it, right? Like, that is the moment that you're looking forward to
Yeah.
when you're pursuing becoming a surrogate. It's like that moment where they finally become parents, and it's like that is the full circle. um and is postpartum weird? Because your body still did do the traumatic thing of giving birth and going through a pregnancy. So, like, it's odd. It's definitely odd to not, have a baby to care for at home, because the milk still comes in and all of the things. But yeah, I mean, essentially at the end of the day, like, you just have to know going into it. And I've told multiple women that I've spoken to, like, you know, if you're unsure that you would be able to give the baby up at the end, like surrogacy is maybe not for you, like because you kind of need to, have peace with that before you even start it, before you're pregnant, before anything. That like that should be something that you're confident about.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, that's such a very common question, and I feel like any experienced surrogate will probably tell you at least one person said, you know,
Yeah. And it's the phrasing of that question too that I think is what is sort of discussed here. Like, how will you feel when you give up the baby? And
yeah,
that sort of implies that like there is claimhood. Like
yeah,
this is something that is yours and you have to give it up to somebody else. And I think that question just kind of traps you anyway.
yeah,
That's like, oh yeah, that if it's mine and I have to give it to someone else, like whether it's genetic or not, like that anything that would be mine that I'd have to give to someone else would be uncomfortable kind of thing.
yeah,
And I think a positive reframe that we've been intentional about is like, how would it feel to experience this child that you're growing in your belly reuniting with their intended parents or meeting their intended parents for the first time? Because that's what's actually happening, right? Like
yeah,
giving something up of yours to someone else. You are giving birth to a child that is meeting their parents for the first time.
yeah,
And that claimhood is not there. That tone of like, this is yours and you're going to give it
yeah,
is not there. And so that in itself, just reframing that can be the way that you set someone up in the very early stages of considering surrogacy to start to think of, no, this isn't like a me thing. Like I am signing up for a them thing and how it
yeah,
feel for me. And am I good with that? And like, I am good with that. I want to do something for them. There's no possession of mine that I'm
yeah,
sacrificing other
yeah,
than the risks that come with pregnancy and this big ask. I mean, definitely sacrifice, but not possession.
yeah. And you're right. It's just you have to shift the dynamic or the perspective of it of because the same women will be like, but you're gonna have all the cravings and you're gonna feel the baby kicking and like how could you give that up at the end? And it's like again, you're excited to tell them about it. You're excited to tell them, or if they're close enough that you get to see them in person regularly,
Yeah,
let them feel it. You try to catch it on video for them so they can see like, oh my gosh, the baby's trying to pop a rib out. And it's just like I don't know, it's just shifting the perspective. You're right, like
it
it's
is.
it's a good, yeah,
Well, it's also reminding that like to be a surrogate, to be a gestational carrier, you're signing up for pregnancy. You're not signing up for parenthood. So you're not signing up for the after part, which is different. When we're
yeah,
talking about how would you feel about giving up this baby, you're also implying that like you're also giving up the after part. You're giving up parenthood. How would that feel? Because in other pregnancies, the pregnancy resulted in parenthood. And in
yeah,
this one, it won't for a carrier. You're not getting pregnant to be a parent here. And so that reframe is also like, are you okay signing up for a pregnancy? And that's a way you can explain it to other people as like, I'm not signing up here to have a child to be a parent. I'm signing up to have a pregnancy.
yeah,
And what happens after the pregnancy part doesn't affect me because that's not the part I'm signing up for,
yeah,
you know?
yeah,
So again, like it's just reframing, but we've been stuck in this like language that I think just makes it feel heavy. Where just changing the language can make the actuality of the experience actually shine.
yeah,
All right, communication and conflict. So we talked about this earlier, but just kind of to go into it a little bit more. I like to use this like dating new job mentality to explain initial stages of the IP and GC relationship. It's kind of like dating, we'll say that. Some people say it's like premarital counseling sometimes, and you're like trying to figure out how we're going to do this. But yeah, you want to kind of go into this relationship dynamic as if you're in the dating sense, as if you're like, I have interest in you, you have interest in me. Let's get to know each other. And I want to be intentional about how I'm getting to know you. There's also this like new job mentality where it's like, okay, I need to learn my environment. I need to understand my responsibilities. I need to understand what your responsibilities are. I need to understand how we're going to work together. So there's sort of these like tones where if you're like completely clueless to how this will look like, you can use some of these things that you've likely had some experiences around of like, I'm in a new job or I'm starting to get to know someone new. What are the things that I'm usually doing in that setting, and how, and that's what I could apply here, to give me like somewhere to work off of and something to grow into. Um, Communication is going to be those topics. And we talked about this. Is it a design? Is it organic? Whatever's going to feel good for you. Just to be clear about it is really the hope. You also want to be intentional about how you ask things, because a lot of the beginning stages is learning each other, and there will be a lot of questions. So assertive and open-ended questions tend to go really far. Like, how are you feeling about X, Y, and Z? What are your thoughts about this and that? Where are you at with this? And these are wonderful questions because you're opening a door and you're like letting whatever's behind the door be there without anyone feeling pressured or like leading anyone. And this can hopefully come back your way as the carrier too, so that you're also spoken to in this way and your feelings are explored and your thoughts are explored, etc. At the beginning stages, and definitely at any point during the journey, it is helpful to identify stress points and discuss them ahead of time. For example, if you have an intended mother that you're matched with, whether a single mother or a couple, and she's had her own fertility experiences and history, and she, let's say she's had miscarriages before, and that's something that she's coming into this experience with. A stress point for her might be, like any indication of bleeding. And she might need to identify that with you, like, hey, if you're bleeding ever, I'm going to need you to go to the hospital ASAP. This is history that I have. This is fear that I'm carrying with me. I will need you to communicate that with me. Please don't think it's nothing, and please go to the hospital right away, kind of thing. So these are those tiny little stress points that both parties can identify, that, hey, I'm going to be really nervous around this, or this is going to be something that's really going to cause me some distress. So can we game plan it a little bit? Or if I'm bothering you a little bit too much around this appointment, it's because this appointment has been tricky for me before. So just expect it. So it's just kind of pointing that out, like kind of looking out and seeing the hazard zones and being able to say those things out loud, either ahead of time or when they're happening, so that we give context, we know how to support each other during those periods. And then conflict resolution, we kind of talked about this already, but again, just understanding, if I'm bothered, can I come to you? Like, can I just tell you, or are you someone who's going to need me to, like, are you going to need time before we kind of revisit something? And that can be how you start with that.
Sure.
Hopefully you're not running into conflict, but what's funny is talking about these things tend to build that trust and tend to build that, oh, I can depend on you and trust you, and you can depend on me and do the same. And hopefully we're not even needing to use these things, but the topic of these, talking about these topics is what's deepening the connection already. So even if you're not worried, still having the conversation is what's going to get you closer.
Sure.
Yeah. Coping with challenges and uncertainty. So obviously entering the landscape of pregnancy, there's a lot of that, a lot of uncertainty, a lot of unknown. You just don't really know what's going to happen there. One of the encouragements that we'll have is sort of developing like what we call like an emotional response plan. And this will be anticipating various outcomes and sort of planning for them, and planning what you're going to need and what you would likely have to do to make sure you're fully supported during those times. So if, these ones are like the big ones, but like if we have a failed cycle, how do we need to pause? Do we need to pause? What does everyone need at that point? Which failed cycles are one of those things that, like, sometimes it's like, okay, let's get to the next one. And other times it's like, no, this was harder than I thought. So I wouldn't just write off a failed cycle as something that's like small. But this is where you're talking about those various outcomes. So things like a failed cycle, how do we want to navigate that? A loss, that's a big one. What do you think you would need? For many carriers, they may have not experienced a loss before. They may have not experienced something like a miscarriage or ectopic or even a termination. And so in our conversations with carriers, we are asking them, hey, what's going to come up for you? Do you think, if that is something that you're experiencing, what do you think you would need? What do you think that like the time or the support, what would we all need to know in terms of how to show up for you? And so those conversations amongst an IP and GC are also very helpful for the GC to also understand from the intended parent side. If we have a failed cycle, if I have a negative pregnancy test, like what do you need from me? Like how could I support you? That is extremely helpful to do in the psycho-emotional response plan. And then identifying coping strategies ahead of time. We also very much encourage like new coping strategies in a surrogacy journey. So like this can tend to be like a new hobby or something of interest that you're going to pick up only now, like only during your surrogacy journey. One of these examples was knitting. Like there was a carrier that she started knitting at the beginning of her surrogacy journey, and that was her coping strategy throughout. She had never knitted before. It ended up a very like amazing resource for her to like keep her grounded. She was like knitting kids baby things. She made a gift for the baby. Like it ended up being this big part of her experience. But like we encourage that, like do something new during your surrogacy journey that can feel good for you to keep you grounded. That can be an effective coping strategy. Pottery class is another one that I've heard. Like anything, like just try a new strategy here. And then obviously leaning into strong support, like you from the very beginning stages of going through this application process and going through your screenings as a carrier, like everyone is collectively shoving it down your throat that you need good support. And that needs to be a big part of your equation. Family, friends, yes. Supportive spaces like this with other carriers, yep. Mental health professionals with surrogacy is you have access to mental health check-ins. So if that's something that you want to utilize, you're encouraged to utilize, please do. And obviously you have your agency and agency staff and everyone there who's checking in on you, who's there for any of the turbulence. Please lean into those individuals. Please don't feel like you have to just wing it and I'm not going to tell anybody. I don't want to be a burden here. I don't want to rock the boat. That's usually the opposite of what happens. If anything, a little bit of vulnerability will get you a lot of connection. So if something's not feeling right or something's just like not what you expected, the encouragement is lean into your supports, plan that out a little bit of how you can cope with these various outcomes. And if your experience comes with grief for whatever reason, grief shows up in surrogacy in a lot of ways. A match break, a loss, an unexpected timeline. There could be grief there too, where you thought, hey, this is what we're doing, and now we're not doing that right now. Now we're waiting. And like there's so much of this that can just feel heavy, but allowing space for that and understanding that grief is sometimes part of this process as well can be very helpful. And it's not scary if it is. Okay. Quick time. Okay. Preparing for birth and transition. So some really helpful strategies around birth. Obviously, if you're a first time carrier, this is the first time you're going to have birth like this, and it may likely be different than your other births. So one thing we'll encourage is visualize the handoff moment. Kind of go through like an internal visualization exercise of like, okay, I'm going to be at the hospital and who's there? I'm seeing my husband there, or maybe my mom's there. Who else is there? And you're kind of just want to visualize the entire thing. It can help you understand what you're going to need. And we encourage this like early, like before you're pregnant, please visualize how birth will look like. What does that day look like? What do you think you'll need from your intended parents? What do you think you'll need from the agency? Discuss your comfort and start to feel how you feel about things like skin to skin, photos with the family, time with the baby. Do you want to hold the baby? Do you not want to hold the baby? Like start to feel that out a little bit and see where you're landing. Plan how you'll decompress afterward. So think about that part too. Like, okay, baby's born. What do I need? Like in my other pregnancies, like I had everyone leave the room and I just wanted to sleep or whatever that was. Like think about how you'll want that time afterward, whether it's bringing your family in, kicking everybody out, maybe a check-in with a mental health provider just to like be someone to kind of like immediately process with. That's a wonderful idea. Maybe that's going to be good for you this time. Whatever makes sense, I would just start to visualize what that will be. And then obviously expect hormonal changes and post-journey feelings. If you've ever had birth before, even in the case of having birth to your own biological child and it being amazing, there's definitely tears. There's a lot of emotions. There's just a lot going on biologically, regardless of if you want it to or not. So just understanding that post-birth period might be a lot of things all at once and very intense. And that's how it's supposed to go. Transition, it also is encouraged to think about those early days at home. What are those first few days going to look like? Like what's the plan? How do you envision this postpartum experience? What would help? So the encouragement is always like, think about this postpartum like you did your other postpartums, and in the best way, like plan to rest, plan to not be doing much, plan to have people supporting you, plan to have people dropping food off, plan for your partner to take some time off if you have a partner to help support you. Like plan for it all the same, because you are still a healing person and you're going to need that time and energy and support, regardless of if you're caretaking a baby or not. You are still a healing person.
Yeah.
The expectation on updates and communication within those first few weeks, that's also something I would think about. Like, are you hoping to see the baby after the hospital? Do you hope to make a plan to connect? Are they international? Are they going to leave soon? Do you want to see them before they leave? Like, how do you envision that after part with your intended parents and with their baby?
Yeah. And are you going to pump is a big one.
Yeah. So yeah, that's for sure part of the postpartum period. And definitely think about your feelings around providing breast milk. Do you want to? Do you have a history that supports that? Did you have positive experiences with with breastfeeding or providing breast milk or pumping before? All of that's extremely relevant. That we always just encourage with like, yes, think about that, but please don't make any expectations about that, because birth is really the trigger point, right? Like what happens at birth, how you feel as a carrier, that typically dictates the after part, especially when it comes to providing breast milk. And that's there could be good intention there, and at the same time your body might not support it for a number of reasons. So that one's the one that will say, think about what you want to do and leave it super open, because
Right.
you need to get to birth first and we need to see how everything's going, and then
Right.
kind of tap that one, that next chapter.
Yeah.
And then what will you do now? Like, this is a good question too. When you completed a surrogacy journey, the pinnacle is birth, right? This is the thing that you've been waiting for. Everyone's been waiting for. You've seen this baby reconnect with their parents. You're home, you're healing, pregnancy's over, surrogacy's over. What now? And sometimes that's a very tricky zone of the, what do I do now? Like, I've been a surrogate for this last year, and this has been my entire identity, everything I devoted my time and energy to. Like, I changed a lot of my life for this, and now it's like we're back to soccer practice, I'm going back to work, like everything's kind of normal again. And like sometimes that doesn't feel that great when things go back to normal again. So also just kind of making space for that thought process of like, yes, I'm a surrogate now, I want to do this, but like, what does life look like after? Because this will forever be a big part of your identity. And there will be that period after where it's like, who are you now? What are you doing now?
Yeah.
And then lastly, honoring your experience. So again, as a carrier, the encouragement, at least from the mental health providers, is connect to this experience, embrace it, feel good about what you're doing. If it's mementos, it can look like creating keepsakes, hospital bracelets, cards, belly photos, letters to the baby, or letters to the intended parents, like whatever that, however you can feel out your like maternal gushiness and like make this feel worthwhile and valuable and something that you'll remember positively. That's the encouragement. Celebration, share your story, only when and how you want to. People are going to be very nosy and want to ask all kinds of things about what was birth like, what are you going to do now, how are you feeling, and maybe you're just not ready to go there and say that, or maybe that could be a big part of how you heal and close a chapter. So it's up to you. Celebrate your role each year. It's part of your legacy of care. So maybe you can speak to this, Kayla, but I know many carriers who will celebrate that birthday, right? And that was that birth date of that child and that child connecting to their family. But that was like a very special day for you too.
Yeah.
And that can be a celebration in itself of I'm celebrating me today because this is the day that I did something incredible for another family. I literally helped another life connect with its parents and like go me, like amazing. This is a day for me to celebrate. I have my own birthday, the day I was born, and I have my kids' birthdays, but I have the day that I gave birth. And this is also something to celebrate.
Yeah.
There could be a variety of versions of this, but a celebratory experience for you to carry, that's really, really encouraged. And then your growth, right? Share your birth story, even though it may sound different than others. This can be really healing. Maybe this is in circles with other carriers. This could also be in other circles without carriers. But you have a birth story, and your birth story is valid, and it's an incredible one too. And it's not the birth of your child, but it is a story of your birth.
Yeah.
So that's something that, again, should be like cherished and remembered. And if it feels good to share that story and if it feels healing for you, then do that. And then writing a letter to pre-surrogacy you, sometimes this can be part of that healing where it's like surrogacy can take up so much space. And then when it's not there, it's like, well, what was there before? And so connecting to who you were before surrogacy can help you understand who was there before and who needs to be there now and what needs to happen now.
Yeah.
So these are all some of those like therapeutic healing processes where if you're in the thick of those emotions and the thick of the big questions that you don't have answers to, these are the things that you use to tap in and try to find some of those answers.
Yeah. We had a comment here that says birthdays are amazing and are an amazing. My whole family celebrates. We love remembering that not just a baby was born, but family was born,
Totally.
and that deserves a moment. Yeah,
100%. Yeah,
that's
I have a carrier that I've met with where they get a cake and well they get like they get two, well in this
yeah.
cupcakes, but they get two cupcakes and they blow a candle for the family and then they blow a candle for mom, which
Oh,
carrier.
that's so
And
sweet.
that's the celebration of that day where it's like we're super excited to celebrate Caleb, and we're also very happy and excited that mom got this special experience. And
Yeah,
so however that looks to you, like it's just beautiful. And again, like involving your family, like your kids can celebrate you, your partner can celebrate you, they should. This was something everyone signed up to do.
yeah. And I think this is a good point to bring out, like, with the celebration and the growth, but also, maybe your journey didn't end in a live birth, happy ever after, and that is certainly a possibility. Or maybe, maybe it did end in a live birth, but perhaps something happened and you're like not cleared to carry again, or you
Yeah.
can't carry again after this. And then, like, processing that grief, or if there was a loss, or, even if it was just a loss for you, writing a letter to your pre-surrogacy self probably can be extremely healing
Yeah.
for that, or still celebrating what you did, and, more or less as a, just a process of handling your grief if there's grief surrounding it.
Yeah.
I mean, the topic of the webinar today is, emotionally preparing for surrogacy, but it's also, like, as much as we all want it to be a happily ever after and we want it to go perfectly, or, or maybe it's even just, you have already delivered 5 times in your life, be it surro-babes or a combination of keepers and surros. And, this is just in general, like, you're not going to be able to do this again.
Right.
Because
Yeah.
that affects you differently. And you said, I personally know lots of surrogates that it becomes a big part of their identity, this big thing that they're doing. And, for whatever reason, if you're not able to pursue that again, or once it's over, then, like, trying to process that can be difficult. Like, just making sure that you're aware of it, you're ready for it if it happens, even just a little bit. Like, do you want it to happen? No. And I'm not saying go into it glass half empty and you're expecting the worst, but you should also somewhat be emotionally prepared for something to happen.
Yeah, definitely. I believe we have a recording around the grief and loss part of surrogacy.
Yeah.
That one's definitely encouraged to kind of go deeper into that topic because that's a
Yeah.
huge topic. That would have been another hour on top of this. But the emotional preparedness, to your point, Kayla, is understanding what you're signing up for, right?
Yeah.
Understanding the gravity of what this looks like from beginning to end.
Yeah.
The big piece there is, should this pivot, should this plan go the other way or an unexpected way? And we are now looking at a journey ending sooner than we thought, or an experience that does not result in a live birth. That's a different emotionally preparing for surrogacy. And that one's
Yes.
really where we're expanding on grief and loss.
Yeah.
And there are so many beautiful ways to cherish and honor that experience too,
Yeah.
for sure. Okay. Q&A is next. Don't know. I see participants here now.
I was like several popped in throughout. They all stayed camera off and
Good.
muted. This is being recorded, everyone that's here. So if you don't want your face on it, keep your camera off. But if you have any questions or any comments for Dr. Sadaf, go ahead and unmute yourself and ask.
And then there will be these slides available in case anything here is pertinent.
Yep, we will email them out, and then the recap of this will be uploaded to our YouTube page for anybody to rewatch or circle back to.
I don't have a question, but I do just have like a comment here. I really like I've been a surrogate twice and I have 3 of my own, and I think that one of the things I did not prepare myself for, like I was okay with going to the hospital, not coming home with the baby and all of that, but running out of pregnancies, like where the IVF clinics are like, nope, no more. Like I wasn't really mentally prepared for that, I think, and that was one of the things that I really struggled with. And honestly, that's kind of what led me into working in the surrogacy industry, because I was like, no, I'm not done helping people. Like being a surrogate kind of just had such an impact on my life and the people around me that I just wanted to kind of keep going in that community. But I really don't think that people acknowledge that. Like I see a lot of surrogates that come in and this will be their final pregnancy if they can carry, and everyone's prepared for like the loss of a baby, like how you navigate that. But this is a whole different type of grief that I've never really actually like heard anyone address. So I just really liked that you brought that up, because I think that is something that a lot more surrogates should consider, because it's just one of those things that you don't know how you're going to feel until you're in that moment. And I'm like, I tell people all the time, if I could be pregnant a million times for a million people, I would, but I can't. So now I'm here to help everybody else get pregnant. And I really, really just, I like just a moment of respect for that, because I really appreciate that acknowledgement.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, grief is definitely another topic that we've had a webinar on, and we'll probably have another one on, but there's so much to that, right? And even like to the point that you made too, like as a carrier, this could be your very last pregnancy period. Like this could be the chapter of this like very maternal,
Yeah.
primal experience that that is no longer something you'll ever plan for, or whether it's yours or not. And so like there's so much loss and so much grief that can be felt around that too.
Yeah. Anyone else have a question or a comment? Thanks, Kendra.
Yeah, thank you.
I have a question. I kind of going back and forward if I wanted to do a surrogate, if I want to be a surrogate, and I just don't know. I don't know if I'm ready or not. So I guess I just need a little bit more guidance. How do I know if I'm prepared or not?
Oh, that's a big question. I don't know if I have the answer. Well, I mean, Kayla has been an experienced surrogate before, so she might have some good answers here. From my perspective, I think your it has to make sense, right? Logistically, like this has to be something where in your life you can envision, all right, the next year or two, like I could be here, like I can, our life, our collective life as a family, if I have children or a partner, whoever, we could accommodate this. We can do this together. I would very much encourage that belief of how, can we all do this? Not just can I do this? But the emotional aspect of it is exactly all of this, right? Like, am I prepared to enter this like new relationship with other people? Do I have the capacity on top of my work or on top of my family or on top of the things in my life to take on another family and then to take on their stuff, right? And be part of their life and be part of their growth. Do I feel capable, or like, do I have capacity for that? And then also recognizing, like, do I have the strengths and supports? Can I feel confident with what I have to step into a situation that could possibly also cause me some pain, or cause me some grief, or cause me some discomfort? I think with many carriers, what I've picked up is like, this becomes a very like internally, like, I'm missing the word, but like, you learn a lot about yourself as a carrier.
Yeah.
A lot. It's a huge like stage of growth internally for many carriers. So it's like, am I ready for that too? Like, am I ready to step in and open some of these boxes maybe that I haven't opened, that surrogacy will open for me, that will make me think about and feel about whatever. And, you know, do I have a strong enough support for that? So I think there's a lot of answers there. I do have to run, but Kayla, I want to give you a second to also put in your feedback.
I was just gonna say, maybe that's a good another
like
webinar topic. It's a good topic. Is am I prepared to be a surrogate? Like, am I ready? How do you know if you're ready? That sounds like a really good future
That's a
topic.
good one, and that could be a great like open forum topic where we can have a bunch of people sharing a bunch of things, so we're getting all the perspectives. I love that.
Yeah.
Sorry,
well, I
don't
don't.
Pandora box.
Yes, Pandora's box. All right. Well, let's. I don't want to keep you if you're running behind. We did go a little over. But yeah. I mean, I think that was a good topic, and thanks everyone that did join in.
Yes.
Thank you for answering my question, Dr. Sadaf.
Of course. Yeah. Thank you for the great webinar topic. We will definitely need to pin that one.
Yeah, we're adding that to the
All righty. I appreciate you all. Have a good day.
All right. Bye.
Bye.